Hello out there. This is Light on the Trail podcast. On this episode, I sit down with the wonderful Regina Massingill. She holds 10 FKTs and she just ran the Leadville 100. We have a wonderful conversation, guys. I hope you enjoy it. Here we go.
I didn't want that to happen, but I just didn't see how I was going to make it. So I took off. It was sun was setting. Threw my headlamp on, and you know what? I kind of decided as I was walking out of the aid station, I was like, you know what? Let's go. Let's hammer it. I know how to go downhill.
All right, this is Light on the Trail podcast. I am so graciously joined by Miss Regina Massingill. Thank you so much for giving up some of your time or your busy schedule to join me on here, especially after a pretty busy weekend or two, because we first started talking, or I first found you, I was looking into FKTs, and then found out you were about to run the Leadville 100. And then just before that, you were crewing at the Habanero, I think. Am I kind of on track?
That's correct. Happy to be on. It's been a busy couple weeks.
Yes. So if we can just, we'll touch on that real quick. How'd the Habanero 100 go? Who did you help? And then, how are you feeling getting into Leadville?
Yeah, so Habanero was a lot of fun. With Leadville coming up a week away, I just wanted to volunteer, get some night training in that way, and then maybe pace a couple of friends for some easy taper miles. I was supposed to pace a friend in the DFW area, Matt Leake, but unfortunately when I showed up to the race, he was already experiencing a lot of dehydration, a lot of problems with the heat, so he had to drop. Went into my night shift volunteering. I got to kind of be the one checking everyone in as they finished their loops between 11 p.m. and 6 in the morning. Honestly, it was a really hard volunteer gig emotionally. I'm not used to having so many people come up to me wanting to drop out. So usually I'm just celebrating people finishing their loop and going on to the next one. So that, for me, that was really hard.
That's a different,
kind of a little bit depressing, a little sad. But I mean, it's a really hard race. So finished my volunteer gig around 6 in the morning. Didn't really have anyone specific to pace, but I still kind of wanted to. So kind of just latched on to a friend, Terry Joffrain, from the Austin area. He let me tag along for 2 loops. That was fun. It was still early in the morning, so it wasn't too hot yet. He was dead tired, but we got him moving. Actually, got him running again for about 12 miles there. He wanted to do his last loop alone, so I let him go off on that, and then tagged along with another friend from the San Antonio area. And he was struggling a little bit more. We did a little bit more walking, but it was also getting a lot warmer. His name was Kenneth Anderlich, sorry, and got him through his loops 8 and 9, and then he had another friend come in for loop 10. It was hot out there. I haven't done that race myself in several years, and I think it was probably the hottest year on record for it.
Whoa!
I'd forgotten about the sand. The sand was. I'm glad I wasn't racing it.
Oh man! I was speaking of that, and I've got it's on here. I pulled up as much information as I could. Again, mostly with the FKTs, and then on your kind of ultra sign up history here. But as far as it goes back, it does say the first one you have on record in 2016 is the 50K at the Habanero 100.
That was my first ultra.
That is awesome.
At the time, I was trying to find that perfect race in the fall and getting myself stressed out about it. And this race, Habanero, was 2 weeks out, and I just decided, you know what the heck, let's go do this and see how it goes. So it's kind of last minute.
That's sometimes right. It has to happen like that. You're like, just do it. Let's see what we can do, right? And just go all in. All right, so you were able to help some people as much as you could and get through the kind of mental toughness side in the heat of Habanero 100, which is an awesome race itself over here in Texas. And then was it just a week later? The next weekend was Leadville, or how much time did you have to kind of? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot of downtime in between. Habanero had been pretty easy miles. I mean, it was more miles than I intended to do. I think I got 24 miles out there, but um, it's not unusual for me to do that the week before big races.
Oh wow.
I head off to Leadville Wednesday. Didn't have a whole lot of time to get acclimated, but yeah, it was that same week with the race being on Saturday morning. Leadville was to say it was hard would definitely I think be an understatement. I think the habanero training kind of helped with a little bit of heat training. Leadville's usually highs in the mid 50s, and this year it was I think it got into the upper 70s. It really I know it destroyed a lot of people.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was a challenge. I mean, 70s doesn't sound like much here in Texas. I know, but when
But
you're
yeah,
when you're
compared
racing in the
definitely.
mountains, yeah, like you're up at altitude and it hits a lot harder up there. It's a lot more intense, I guess I should say.
Wow. What and that was your first. This was your first Leadville, correct? You got the
First
ticket last
Leadville,
year or the
yeah.
drawing, I believe you had. Okay.
I got into the drawing at Silver Rush last year. Got to pace a friend who ran the 100 last year, so I got to see a little bit of the course, so that was nice. And then yeah, I
Okay.
ran it this year. Somehow managed to finish
Uh,
by the skin of my teeth.
I was going to ask, and for anyone that doesn't follow Regina on anything, there's kind of a bit of a story that you could kind of see putting together because you almost got, I want to say timed out, but almost missed the checkpoint, right? And then you kind of caught yourself up and really got to dig, and that was something I was going to ask if that wasn't the hardest part. But what was a portion where, yeah, you really had to dig and kind of get after it?
Yeah, I think the entire maybe the last I mean from Hope Pass the second time onward, I was chasing cutoffs.
Oh,
I was feeling pretty strong for the first 38 miles. I was even feeling pretty strong up to Hope Pass the first time. You slow down, take it easy. Um, went down the backside, made it to Winfield, which is the halfway point, with about a little over an hour. When I got there, I was feeling pretty tired, a little lightheaded. I'd been struggling with some nausea at that point, nothing major, but it was definitely slowing me down. I think it was mostly the altitude, just based on a few races I've had this summer already. Like I've noticed there's just a theme. I'm not acclimated to 10,000 feet, so it definitely has an
yeah, yeah.
impact.
It's a different.
Yeah. um, there was a moment at Winfield when I really kind of questioned whether it's like I was legitimately not sure I was going to make it back up to the top of Hope Pass. Like that climb is pretty steep on that side, and it's like, man, I don't know if I can make it. Um, didn't let that thought linger long. I pushed it out pretty quick, and just like, okay, like we gotta go. This is what we're doing today. So head on up. It was hard, but I made it to the top of Hope Pass the second time. There's no cutoff there, but there is a cutoff when you get to the bottom at the next aid station. I had a little less than 2 hours to get 6 miles down the mountain, which is plenty. But when when you're I like as tired as I was, still battling some nausea, like it was a daunting task. But so I sat there at Hope Pass for a minute, and I'm by myself and just surrounded by a few other runners, and it's like had those thoughts again. It's like, okay, I'm going to be coming into Twin Lakes the next aid station, and I'm not going to make the cutoff, and I'm going to get some hugs, and everyone's going to tell me it's okay, and that's going to be the end of my race. Um, I didn't want that to happen, but like I just didn't see how I was going to make it. So I took off. It was sun was setting. threw my headlamp on, and you know what? As like I kind of decided as I was walking out of the aid station, was like, you know what? Let's go. Let's hammer it. I know how to go downhill. I know I can do it in 2 hours. I might barely make the cutoff, but you know, I'm here. I've been training for this for over a year now. Like I've got to give it all I can. So I flew down that mountain, like caution to the wind. I was passing everyone left and right.
Yeah.
Made it down in an hour and a half, I think.
All right.
I don't know how I didn't fall, but you know, I guess God was with me, keeping me safe out there because I made it to Twin Lakes with 15 minutes to spare, I think. My crew got me, you know, they got me taken care of. We changed socks and shoes. We got some food. There really wasn't time to think there. There was no time to sit there and question life and whether I wanted to go on or not. It's like, no, we're getting out there.
You were going to go on. Yes, yes.
We were moving. So yeah, I picked up my pacer and we head out. And from there on out, I mean, we were chasing cutoffs the whole time. I was seesawing still a lot between I can push it a little bit further, but then I get too nauseous and I got to slow down. There's one more big climb called Pipeline, and I remember before I did that climb, I was, you know, my crew's telling me like we got to make it, and like we got to do this pace, we got to get to the next aid station. I was like, I'm looking at this climb and I've seen this climb because I already went down it. And I'm like, there's no way, there's no way. I was telling both of them like all night, there's no way I'm gonna make it. I made it. I got to that last aid station. It's called McQueen. Actually did not make the cutoff. I was about a couple minutes over. We were running at that point to try to make that cutoff. The distance was a little bit longer than we both thought it was going to be, and the trail was really technical coming into it. My poor pacer's just like, she's running, she's trying to get me to run, and I'm running at that point because I'm like panicked. And I'm like yelling at her, "Where's the road? Where's the road?" Because you hit the road before you like the aid station is on a road, like we're on a trail, and I'm like, we're nowhere close. It's like I'm never gonna make it. We hit the road and we're on the road, and like I looked down at my watch and we're at the cutoff time. So I start walking immediately, and like now I'm processing this whole like loss and like all of this effort and all this work, and like it's over now.
Oh man,
And
yeah.
all of this is going through my head, and then someone on the road is like, keep running, they might let you through. And I'm like, oh no. So now we're like back in panic mode again, running, and I get to the little timing mat, and they do let me through. They let me through, and they let one guy behind me through.
Whoa.
So I'm so thankful. Like I don't know why or how, or you know, they decided, I guess they saw something in me that I didn't see. They're like, you can go ahead.
Amen. Yeah.
So super quick transition there. Refill water bottles. Picked up a different pacer that I really didn't know her that well. But at this point, it's like, okay, again, we're kind of in panic mode. I don't have a whole lot of time. I've got 3.5 hours to get 12.5 miles. So we take off, and, you know, we're running as much as we can, and, you know, hiking the rest. And I don't know, somehow like she got me to that finish line less than 10 minutes before the cutoff. And
Yes.
it was so amazing. I got teary eyed. I couldn't believe that I got there.
Oh my
Never would have done it
gosh.
without the crew that I had.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Being that close to it. Yeah. To say, right, physically and mentally emotional, I'm sure is like an understatement. I'm sure it's like something, especially having that going from so quickly of, well, I tried, and then they're like, maybe you'll still be able to go, and then getting kind of back in the game after you think you're kind of out of it, and then like now you got to flip the switch back on and really get after it and keep going, and then to still persevere through that, and then with 10 minutes left. Yeah, that's awesome. What a story. Way to go. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's woo. How have well, in the midst of the race, putting on hundreds, and how many hundreds have you ran? Do you know? Or a
This was
couple I
my
know.
third 100-mile race. I've done 2 in Texas. I've done some FKTs I think we'll get into later that are about the same distance.
Right. Yes. Uh, yeah. Awesome. Okay. I didn't think it was your first one. With the hundreds as well. I'm just from looking over here, but with that, and that's such a endeavor, and then more so with the mountains, right? And at it kind of and at elevation. As far as with gear goes, I think it can really kind of put in a uh, something that can really help you, or even mentally if it's just placebo effect. But was there something that you were surprised that acted well, or that you did like, or something that like failed you that you wouldn't recommend to somebody, or it just all was okay?
Um, I mean, my nutrition went about as expected. I used Tailwind a lot, used it as long as I could, and then eventually just got sick of it, had to switch to water. I was having trouble with solid foods in the second half, just with the nausea and everything. I was having to do more liquids, a few more gels than I usually use. Thankfully, I had some mashed potatoes that I'd packed, so that worked. Little peanut butter packets worked. Just more liquid food, just because I just couldn't stomach the stuff that was hard, like more solid stuff was just harder to digest, I guess.
Okay.
Just because of the altitude and maybe the heat of the day. Yeah, it
Right.
was,
Just give the given day how your stomach's gonna handle it, or
yeah,
agree or disagree. Okay.
exactly.
Is that, as far as the year goes, has that been, and I don't know, it could have been another like amazing experience you've had this year, but what's been your favorite event that you've ran this year, or a memorable one? If it's something that's not the Leadville, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think I did a 100K called Never Summer in Colorado 4 weeks ago now. It was kind of my peak training activity before Leadville. That race was gorgeous. I would definitely have to say that was like one of my favorite races this year. It was hard. It had almost as much vert as Leadville in a 100K, but it was so pretty up there, and everything went right. I mean, I went in with an injury, but the injury wasn't really a problem. My nutrition was pretty good. I never got tired. Um, it was just it was a gorgeous race. It was hard at the end, and I was walking and complaining to my crew. But I mean, it was still a fabulous. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who has the opportunity.
Awesome. That was the Never Summer, you said?
Yes,
Okay, okay. I was just double checking on that. Okay, very good. Well, that's a great way if you're trying to put in like a training, your last little peak one, and to have a good kind of overall feel for it, and over like a, checking your fitness and everything. You're like, okay, like at least it gave you some more of that, assurance to take on Leadville.
for
Uh,
sure.
Wonderful. Have you? We'll get into FKTs here in just a little bit. What is, unless it, I guess this is the longest, because I know I want to say race or event, because that might put them both in the same category. But what is the longest you've ran?
The longest distance I've run is definitely the Northeast Texas Trail. It was
Okay.
131 miles. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. I saw that on your list there of the ones that you had, and I was like, that's a really long one. Like, holy cow!
It's pretty
I
long.
wonder I wonder if she's done anything over that. Okay, yeah, that's very good. And then, have you always been more attracted to longer distance or endurance, or have you kind of followed that? Maybe you were in track or something in high school or college or something. You just kind of like was pulled to more of like the distance and that kind of endeavor.
I followed the progression, yeah, as an adult. Got in, didn't even get in. I wasn't in track. I got into running as an adult. Seen coworkers do the local Chevron marathon. I'm like, man, if she can do it, I can do it.
Right?
So,
Yes.
so I did a lot of road running. I did, like we said, I did my first ultra maybe I think in 2016. I was still doing a lot of triathlons at that time. Did a couple Ironmans. I really got into the trail running, I'd say, like during COVID. Was really when that switch really flipped over to like just loving more trails and that longer
Oh,
distance stuff. I had wanted to do 100 miler in 2020, and with races canceled, that's kind of what nudged me into the FKT side of things.
okay. That makes perfect sense now, right? If it's being almost forced to stay inside and maybe having a more of a hunger for being outside, and that's really what kind of pulls me to more trail running too, is because just the nature being out there and road running's fine, and there's some parks or even like sidewalk or paved, but being out in the wilderness and kind of more with nature is can be something special about that if you want that. And it also helps, like if I go out for a run during the summer like it is now and it's so hot, and someone's like, what are you doing out there, it's so hot, like most of the time it's in the shade, like I'm running in trees, I'm not on the road, baking. It's covered, and that helps a little bit, right? And they're like, oh, whatever. I'm like, it really doesn't.
Absolutely.
It does. All right. So with the mention of the northeast trail, Northeast Texas Trail, which I think is the second longest trail that Texas has out of like the 5 that we have. I think there's like 20, but and I think the Trans Texas is the longest one. But so I was looking through. I kind of got more involved with distant running and trail running this year, and then learned about FKTs and everything, and kind of just following suit with all that kind of stuff. And so looking through Texas, and I can't remember what made me look it up. I think I was just going through every route and looking at names, and I saw yours, and then I realized you can search their names in general and then find everything. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy cow! Like I would, and then there you are. So you've got 10 FKTs, 9 in Texas, and then 1 is in Kansas, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, which is awesome, and it says your first one, which is the one of the first ones. I guess if you're looking at trails in Texas, it kind of points you towards the Lone Star hiking trail, and it says
Yeah.
you got that in 2017. So, what it was it like you kind of mentioned COVID kind of adjusted direction for that, or what made you want to pursue right an FKT on the Lone Star hiking trail, which is like a 97, pretty much 100-mile trail.
Yeah. Um, like I said, I was looking for a 100-mile race. I hadn't signed up for anything yet because, again, I was overanalyzing things and trying to find that perfect race. Then the races got canceled. It's like, oh man, but I really still want to do 100. It's like, you know what? Let's make my own. I knew about Lone Star Hiking Trail. I knew it was practically in my backyard living in Houston, and I knew it was about 100. So I was like, you know what? I can do this thing and add whatever mileage on I need at the end and get my 100 miles, be virtual or whatever. Somewhere in the process of researching the trail, I came across the FKT site. I was like, oh, this is a thing. I was like, oh, okay, cool. It's like, I don't know. So I'm looking at the finish times. It's like, maybe I could do it faster than that chick that's done it. It gives me a goal. I think her name was Marcy Beard. It's like that gives me a time goal now. I was like, ooh, this could be fun. Um, so yeah, that's how I came across FKTs and ended up doing this one. I think in early 2021 in January or so. It was cold.
Yes, yeah.
It was definitely an adventure. There was a bridge. I think it's around the 50K mark that had been out for several years. So my crew had to have kayaks there for me to kayak across the river.
Oh my gosh.
So it added a little extra fun factor. And then yeah, going overnight. I mean, you're dealing with anything and everything that's out there. Maybe there's hogs. Maybe I got chased by dogs multiple times. Had to cross multiple little rivers and streams and bayous and stuff out there.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I don't know
gosh.
how I finished, but
Oh, that's perfect. Yes, yeah. It says here on January 17th, it took you 22 hours, and you were able to take the first supported female FKT from Miss Marcy Beard that took a day in 27 minutes. So
awesome.
by a handful of hours there. Yeah, And again, the Lone Star one kind of, I would say, maybe being like a famous trail somewhat, in Texas, um, is it's pretty active. On the one way, there's a handful of people, and there's only one person that said they did it on the out and back. Uh, what that's a that's an adventure, yeah. Uh, so, which one, if you can recall, is your I want to say, like, are you most happy with, or are you most like proud about that you got through and that you got it? Were some you just like wanting to complete and hoping you got the time, or was there one that you were like, I want the time, I want the FKT?
Um, I mean, this first one holds a special spot. Um, the Northeast one was a new challenge in that there was no women's time, but there was a guy's time, and I wanted to really beat that guy's time and
Ooh,
get the overall. That one, it, long distance, 131 miles, but it was a Rails to Trails project, and there was actually a few sections that are closed, so you have to run on the actual like asphalt road. So it was a really fast one. I'm really proud of how I did. At the same time, I really think I could do better. Um, I ran the first 99 and a half miles of that one in less than 19 hours. And then it took me another, 12 hours to do the last 50K.
oh man.
So definitely time for improvement. But at the same time, like that was the longest distance by far that I'd ever done, or, like I was so unsure going into it if I could even do that distance. So I'm definitely like, that one for me is a big one.
that is that's a big one, yeah, especially here in Texas. We only got a handful of some. And I was gonna ask, or we can ask, I can ask her real quick. How do you feel about FKTs that are like shorter than an ultra, or like 15 miles or less, or something like that?
I think if it's a mountain or something similar, if there's a hard effort involved, then I can see the point of it. If it's something that's kind of already on an established, like if it's part of a race course, which I think they do try to avoid, but like North Shore Trail, I have the female FKT on it, but it's like, like I know there's a race out there too. So
Yeah, yeah.
for the really, I have got a few really short ones on some of the peaks here in Texas, like Emory Peak. Several of them don't even have or didn't have women's times at the time, and I would actually like refer to Strava QOMs to um, use that as my standard to beat. I think the
Nice.
FKT, what the FKT site offers that maybe the Strava QOMs don't, is like sometimes the Strava, you can do an effort, but the Strava doesn't pick it up as that you did that segment for whatever reason. Like I think it was Emory. It didn't pick me up on that segment. Probably,
Really?
I don't know if it just like lost me somewhere or what, but like, I mean, there is a scramble at the end of that one. So maybe I got off of it for too much trying to figure out how to get to the top. But yeah, the FKTs, I think, yeah, I don't know. You could go either way with that.
Right. And that's I've had this little bit of a discussion with a friend, because I've after finding the FKTs, it's been something I've been really looking into and attracted with. And there's a couple around here. I'm like, that would be an awesome, just little passion project. Or if you do like one a year or attempt for it, and just make it something special. But with it being some of them, you can look at the newest FKT trail put in Texas. Oh, this one got accepted, 2 months ago, and it might only be 10 miles or something like that. Like, and it depends, like you're saying. I think it can be something very special in a unique spot, but there needs to be a difference of, like, you know Joe's Corner over here, and it's just like a segment, like a Strava segment, that isn't, that kind of
No.
thing, right? Like that, and then the Northeast trail can be on the same like field, is like, that's odd. But it can be, like you're saying, summer, if it's a climb or anything else. But yeah, mentioning the Northeast Trail, yes, you do have the fastest time overall. There's only three people that have their record on here, and you're at a day in 5 hours and 57 minutes, and then next is a day in 11 hours. But that's, yeah, awesome. Very much so. So with that, and we've kind of mentioned Um, and on your side, right? I bet there's a handful that may not even have the females time on it yet, and it's just all dudes. And you're like, well, I could just do it and have the female time, but I want to beat the guys. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Something I noted, like I said, I was looking um, through all the ones we have here in Texas. There's some don't even have a record. There's one, the Davis Mountain Loop, 76, if I'm thinking correctly, and then there's if I say it right, I want to say the GUMO, but the GUMO McKendrick Canyon is a 22-mile one, and it doesn't have a record. So some of these they've been established to put in, but no one's completed them yet.
Yeah.
The one I've kind of been looking at has a set for down and then also down and back, and no one's done the down and back. Like, well, if I try to do the one way, I might as well come back the other way and try my hardest, and then maybe I could have that. So again, just something to push myself and try something new. But
Absolutely.
um, is there a FKT on your radar or one you've been thinking about?
Oh, yes.
Ah,
Um, so I was going to do the Big Bend in March. Um, there are some falcons who nest in the springtime, though, and a portion of the FKT route for the Big Bend 100 was closed um, to give these falcons space to nest.
wow.
So
Okay.
and it was a 1 mile section, and it would have been, you could have bypassed it, but it would have cut the route short, and so that was not, to me, that's not a reasonable option. So okay, let's put that on hold. My backup plan was to do the 100-mile route through Guadalupe and Carlsbad. That trail has been washed out in Carlsbad, though, because of some intense flooding last year. Honestly, I don't know
Oh,
when this will ever be repaired. I'm sure it will be someday, but not in
oh
the near future.
boy.
That's how I ended up with a Kansas FKT, because I had the crew, I had support, but I didn't have a trail to do.
Oh my gosh.
So it came down to like finding the next closest reasonable thing that I might be able to accomplish. So ended up doing Kansas. But yeah, I think this fall, hopefully in December, assuming recovery and everything goes well from Leadville and everything, hoping to take another stab at Big Bend in December.
Oh, all right. You have one, the Lost Mine Trail is just one that's showing up here, the Big Bend. But um, yes, that's awesome. You also have the Paladuro Canyon. That's one I've looked at, and I think it would be awesome to do that one out there. And it's just a unique landscape and everything. That I find that really kind of calling, and it would be nice to try again the Lone Star hiking trail. I even thought of it, having friends do it with me. Awesome. Big Bend would be, it was a special place. Do you have like, kind of like I mentioned, have you had that thought of with the FKTs, like maybe once a year, or depending on how you're feeling, right, or whatever happens, like is that kind of a goal of yours to like keep pursuing them?
Oh yeah, it's for sure. There's not much pursuit of. I like doing the ones in Texas. They just, I mean, they're home. Um,
Yes.
I definitely, you can't really pursue with them in Texas though in August or or even May, for the most part. So yeah, come once it starts cooling off, I've got my eye on a few. Big Bend's the biggest one. I've got some vacation and near Guadalupe in October, so I might try to hit a couple out there, in those mountains because they are gorgeous. Um, and then maybe, like, I know there's the cedar something in Dallas that I might go after, if there's time. But
That's the one I'm looking at. Don't do it. You've already, I'm sure you've already, yeah. The one that goes through all the cedar parks. Yeah, there's not a time for it
yeah,
down and back, which is just like 41 miles. It's like 20-ish miles one way or 22 miles one way, and then so essentially
yeah,
44 back or whatever. And
that's
since
one
that's
that
just close, yeah,
I can't compete with the guys on that one. That would be a women's. Like, you guys are too fast.
that one is. I went out to get a feel for it, and I kind of started in the middle because I've only from the state park to the Cedar Reserve to Big Cedar, which is like a mountain bike course, and then kind of goes off to like another little trail somewhere. So it's like a lot of, it's an interesting kind of crossing way and like roads and things. And I was like, I'll start in the middle so I can get a feel for all of them a little bit. And thank goodness I figured out how to put like a GPX map on my watch and like use that, because I was like, I even wrote like a note and I laminated it with like box tape so I could try. I just did not want to get lost and like just get a feel for it. But yes, that's a it's a little bit of everything with that one. It's
Yeah.
really neat.
The FKTs, especially the longer ones, will definitely force you to like learn good navigational skills, and I would say that having that route on your watch is a absolute must for anytime you do any of these, because you think you're gonna go out there and do it without that, and know where you're gonna like when you're in on on the ground doing it, it's like you're gonna hit an intersection somewhere and you're like, where do I go? And you're going to panic because you're already in this state of racing, even though there's no one else out there racing against you in the moment. I think it makes it more, it's almost like doing a relay. You have that extra intensity of like trying to be there for the team. Like these FKTs, like there's no one else out there racing while you're racing, but like you're racing everyone of all time, past, present, future, and you're just trying to give it all you can, and it definitely ups the game.
Yeah, that's it's a
Pressure.
definitely more of a mental, right? It almost needs to be everything you got all the time, like every second, because if in the back of your head
Yes.
it's that mental strain, like I don't. What if they were, here? Yeah, you can't see the back of that person, and you're just like chasing them down and whatever. It's just the whole time you're like, I wonder if I'm, I think with my time
Yeah.
that I thought at this point, halfway, this many hours, okay, I think I'm on, And then the last thing you want to do, like you said, is run into an intersection and think, wait, what? And then run 3 miles in the wrong direction, and you kind of just, you could kind of lose, not lose hope, but it's gonna be a lot harder
Yeah.
if you're doing good for that time.
I had a little bit of that at North Shore. I think I took I don't know, for some reason even on my nav, on my whatever I loaded, whoever's run I loaded, it had a little out and back. It was probably a water stop for whoever.
Oh, okay.
He added like a half a mile, which isn't much, but it's still, I was like, oh no. Like in the moment, it's just like, oh no.
Yes, right. And now you're thinking that the whole time, the rest of the way, you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
What? So there is, and I found this a little confusing when I first again was looking into it. And you just, if you're gonna do it, you don't want to mess it up again. So I'm trying to like understand it better. But how would you explain supported, self-supported, and unsupported?
Supported is anything where someone's helping you. I think even if you, because a lot of these are on trails, maybe you're doing Lone Star on your own. I'm going to use this as an example because I saw someone else doing this. And you meet another through hiker and you stop and they offer you lunch or whatever, and you have lunch with them.
It's
Now
supported.
you're supported. Yeah. Um, even if your friends are just cheering you along, just have your friends cheer for you at the finish. It's that one to me is kind of like, if you pass someone on trail, you don't know they're going to be there and they cheer you along. I wouldn't count that, but like, yeah,
Okay.
like you don't any support. Self-supported is okay. You're doing that long trail. You're caching water for yourself, though. Maybe it's like something like the Appalachian, and you pop off to like go to a gas station to buy some more food and stuff. There's no one, you haven't set an appointment with anyone out there to be there for you. You're just kind of living off the land, so to speak. Unsupported is you're not caching water. You're not going to the gas station. If you need water, you're refilling from a stream or you're carrying what you need. I think is one exception around like unsupported, self-supported. Like if you need to use the bathroom and you go into a facility to use the bathroom, I think they say that's okay because they'd rather you do that than like go out in the woods. But yeah, for the most part, unsupported is just you're out there on your own, doing it with zero help. Supported is you can have anything in the world with supported too. I mean, you can have a pacer the entire time. They can mule for you. They can carry everything for you. They can everything but run down the trail.
Right,
Um,
right.
That said, I mean, it's up to you how much support you want to get. I've never had anyone mule for me during a run, but I usually will take pacers for this, after a few miles. I
That's
know
really
the
nice.
guy
Yeah.
that beat me for Northeast Texas Trail, like he claims he was supported, but if you read his write up, I mean, technically it's supported, but he didn't have the support that I had. He was out there on his own. A trail angel helped him about halfway through
Okay.
with some supplies. like, so even within like the supported, there's a lot of different levels, I guess. Like if you read that's where the trail descriptions come in. You can kind of gauge like it's like, man, this guy's really a badass. I beat him, but did I really like?
Yes. And for reading that again, I kind of look at it and read and try to think about it in this, and yes, supported. I've heard him as it's written through the website. Um, yes, they can be at the start and the finish, and say, "Good job, go. We'll see you later," and that doesn't count as supported. But yes, if anybody is right running with you or trying to help you in any way, then it's classifying supported. Also, what's the? It's like me and you could go run a trail and both be unsupported, but as soon as one of us quits, then you are pacing the other one or something like that. Then you're running
Yes,
technically something, yeah, and you're
yes,
like, oh wait, what? So they're gonna pace me the rest of the way, but they're not gonna something like. But I don't know what's happened before. But those kind of things. What if in the cedar one we were speaking of earlier? There's you go through a couple just like public park areas, and there's like a water fountain. Is that self support? If you're trying to do unsupported, but you stop at the water fountain, is it then self supported, or is it like a public or like natural resource of water?
I think that would still be unsupported. Like I think that you can go into the Q&As and probably confirm that, but I think yeah, like water hoses and fountains that are already on the trail, like those, pretty sure those are fine to use.
Okay, I think so too. It's those kind of fine line things again that if you know you're giving it all you got and you think you did this, the same thing as getting like turned around on a trail or that, and you mentioned this and like, okay, well now you're this like, oh
Yeah,
no, I would have been fine not stopping there, like, yes. And then
yeah,
I believe too, you have to beat you have to for your time to be listed. It won't just list any time, you have to beat a time, I think, right? Like and
right.
if you're doing the unsupported, you would obviously have to beat the unsupported time, but you also have to, if you're doing supported and you beat the supported time, but you don't beat the unsupported time, right? That doesn't count. You have to beat the harder tier, I think.
You have to beat the easier tiers. Sorry. No, I think you said it. Sorry, you think you said
Okay,
it right.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you're supported, you better beat the unsupported
Exactly. That makes
time.
sense. Okay. Yeah, yeah. It's not like it is three separate categories, but it's all for that trail. So the only
right.
reason you would see multiple names like on the Lone Star is because it is a kind of popular one and there's just been that many people that have beat the next person. It's not
Yes.
like they did it, oh, but I got second place. It's they were first at a time and now they're
Right.
second place because somebody beat them, or they don't hold the record anymore, but they're nice and they
Right.
keep it up there. Uh, yes, it's a lie. It's really interesting. And then there's a whole list of like a section on here where it's I think it shows people's trail names, which I didn't know was a thing, and that is
I
a
think that's
treat.
new.
Is it? Okay.
I think so. I've heard about that recently. I haven't like delved into it.
It's a treat. It's funny what some of these people are called because you have to ask like why are they called this, and but that's neat. So that adds more little flavor to that, the community, which trail running is awesome anyway. All right, and lastly, to finish it off here with the trail running, I might have more. We'll see. Just what's a tip you would give someone that's trying to do an FKT or look into it? What should they be advised of or try to do?
I think, I mean, the biggest thing is the navigation. Like I mentioned, is just make sure you got the route like on your watch or on your phone, like use Gaia or something. Because in the moment, like it's important to get the route right, or your whole effort could just be out the window. Other advice would just be to enjoy it. I mean, I use this FKT site when I'm going out of town just to look for like those iconic trails to do somewhere. You don't have to even be going for an actual FKT. Just like it's a good reference point for like what is out there, what's available, what are people doing. Um, and I've really enjoyed it a lot. I think it's definitely opened a lot of trails up to me here in Texas. And like Palo Duro, like Palo Duro's been on the watch list for a while just to go out there and visit, but never a priority. But someone made an FKT out there last year, and it's like, oh, like okay, well, now I have a route to do. I don't even have to think about what I'm going to go do while I'm out there. Now I have a route to follow, and I can just go do that. So, I mean, yeah, just getting out there and enjoying, what we have. I mean, there's not a lot in Texas, but I mean, the ones that are out there, pretty good.
It's special. Yeah, if you go all the way to there's some out, east almost to Louisiana, which is obviously a different kind of landscape. And then you can go out to Palo Duro or Big Bend and then experience that kind of, that style of
Yeah.
things there and everything. So there's a little difference. But yeah, if you just go up a state to Colorado, it's just riddled with trails and all that stuff. It's crazy.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And then lastly, this is just a fun one. When you're running or training or racing or anything, are you more of like a power uphill kind of runner racer? Do you like that, or do you like bombing down a hill? Or where do you think you can gain ground, or that you're good on?
I will bomb the downhills. I slow down for uphills. I don't try to power through. I just take it easy.
Right. That sounds that. Yeah. That's kind of. I think that's usually, if you think about it, my thought is gravity pulls you down. So just pick up your feet and try to balance and be okay. Then it's uphill, but people are going slow. So I've had those times where I'm thinking like, well, now's my time to push and show. I don't know why you would, but some people they're just like, that's what my legs do. They just hike and they'll take off up hills and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. But that's fun. All right. Well, Miss Regina, thank you so much for giving me the time to talk with you here and catching up. It's been a very, I'm sure, fun and intense last couple of weeks for you. I hope that you get, bless you, and hope you get recovered. Your body gets back to moving happily and you can go after your next KT and everything. But I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Sure. It's good to be on.